Hello, my name is Bonnie and this is my podcast, A Knitter Obsessed. It's been about 2 weeks since my last podcast update and I have some project updates for you guys. So, to start off with, I am not wearing any knitwear, so I can't do a what am I wearing section, and I also don't have any finished objects, so I can't do a finished object section. So we're gonna jump straight into it with whips. I'll start off with the one I've done the least on, and then most of my progress the last 2 weeks has been on my largest whip. So I've got a nice big update on that guy, as well as a couple of new project plans that I'd like to talk about. So to start off with, without further ado, I haven't gotten a ton done on this, but I have gotten a little bit done. So I figured I would share with you guys. But this is my much talked about, I think I've been talking about it every podcast episode for like 2 months now, but my Wishbone sweater by Veronika Lindberg. This is, just to recap, knit with one strand of Sandi's Garden Double Sunday in the color Deep Red, held with a strand of Knitting for All of Soft Silk Mohair in the color Claret, which gives this absolutely amazing color. So my main progress on this is that I've knit about half a sleeve. Last time I showed it, this sleeve, I had just started it. I think I'd only done one pattern repeat on it. And so I've knit all the way down here. All of the decreasing is done on it, and I have about half of the repeats I need until I get to the cuff. So it's getting there. I was making really good progress on this. But I talked about this in my last podcast episode that this project's becoming harder and harder for me to want to pick up because it's very hot on my lap while I'm working. And it's getting very hot here, so we're definitely fully into summer at this point. We had our first round of triple-digit weather very recently. And yeah, it's hard for me to want to pick up, and so it seems like any little hurdle that I encounter is enough to make my brain not want to knit it. And I was working away on it, and I got to the end of my merino strand, and my yarn was in the other room in one of the cubbies that I store my yarn in, and that was enough of a hurdle for me to not want to work on it anymore. I mean, that was like a week and a half ago that happened, and I still haven't walked into the other room to grab another ball of the merino, which, yeah, so it's a little silly. I'll get back into it. It'll be fine. I'm not too worried about it. It'll get done. But yeah, like I said, it's just so hot to work on. But I'm also just keep thinking about how beautiful the finished object's going to be. And I will say though, with the Sandi's Garden Double Sunday, that is the biggest pet peeve that I have with that yarn, is that the balls are so small. They're 50-gram balls, and I just feel like I'm changing out balls of merino constantly on that sweater. There's a lot of times I'll weave in ends as I go in my projects, and I'm not with this one, and I have a feeling I'm going to seriously regret it because there's so many ends on that sweater, and it's just gonna be awful when I get to the finishing stages. Yeah, my only issue with that yarn, other than that, the yarn's gorgeous. I think the fabric it makes is stunning, so I will, use Double Sunday again for sure, but a little irritating. I just wish it came in bigger, skeins as an option. What are you gonna do? But yeah, so that's the, I did a little bit of work on that. That's basically my entire update on that. I've talked about that project to death at this point, so I don't have much more to add right now. But my main project that I've been working on, I had mentioned I was obsessed with it in the last podcast episode, so it should come as no surprise. But it's my Hue Shift Afghan. So I'll start off, this is what I did today. I finished the first 2 sections, which I'll show you in a minute. And then just this morning, I started section 3. So I've got 2 squares on my 3rd section. This is a mitered square blanket. The pattern is through Knit Picks. It is designed by Kerin, Dimeler, Laurence. Also, to everyone who was yelling at their screens in the last episode that I was saying mitered wrong over and over and over again, I apologize. I kept saying metered. And it was actually quite funny because the first time I said it in the episode, I was like, that felt wrong. But I couldn't quite figure out why it felt wrong. And I tend to be thinking about like so many things when I'm doing these episodes, you know, like make sure I look at the camera and make sure the lighting's good and make sure I remember the names of all the designers and stuff. And so I just kind of like let the thought go, and I was like, it's fine, just do the episode, it's gonna be okay. And as I was like editing, I was like, I am pretty sure I'm saying the wrong word that entire time. And then I got a couple of very nice comments, also just, you know, helping me out and letting me know for the future, which I do really appreciate because I don't want to keep saying it wrong. So I absolutely appreciate the constructive criticism. It is very helpful for me, so thank you. But yes, mitered squares. This blanket has 100 mitered squares. It's 4 sections with 25 squares each, and it makes this really pretty rainbow gradient when you get them all done. So this is as much as I have on section number 3, just the first 2. But this is exciting to me. I was so happy watching this come together. This is what I have for sections 1 and 2. I don't even know if you can see it all. Oh my goodness, it's so good. But I got both sections done. I got them seamed together, and I did the very beginning of the black border that goes around the whole thing. So you have, it's all in garter stitch. And yeah, I am just obsessed with this blanket. It's so pretty. And it was one of those things, like, I was liking it before when I was working on it, you know, one section at a time. But as soon as I seamed the sections together, like, oh, it just went to a whole nother level. Like, I cannot get over this. It's so stunning. It's heavy too. Like, this is not even half the blanket, and like, this is a very heavy blanket. It is going to be warm. So I'm so excited with this. I thought I was going to get the first 2 done and want to take a break, but I loved watching those 2 sections come together so much that I just kept thinking about how cool it's going to be to do the other 2 sections. Like, this morning, it was 100% my intention to start working again on, probably not the Wishbone sweater, but I have another cardigan that I have as a whip, which I'm not showing in this episode just because I've done absolutely no work on it. But my intention was to work on that this morning, and I kept sitting there with my coffee on the couch thinking, all right, you know, let's go get our knitting. And I was like, I just want to see what the next squares look like. Like, I can't stop thinking about them. It's very interesting. I did not expect this this project to take over my brain the way it is. If you are new here, this is a blanket I'm knitting for my oldest niece. She never got a baby blanket because I was in college at the time and just didn't have, you know, my life together enough to have the time to knit someone a blanket. I was mostly making like fingerless gloves and stuff at that point, you know, very small, quick projects. I also wasn't as good of a knitter, so I think it's probably in her best interest that I waited a little bit and could give her something it's a little bit more well put together than it would have been back then. The goal is to give it to her for Christmas, and for a minute I was worried I would not make that deadline because I was going on this so slow. But if I keep up anywhere near the pace I'm currently on, it won't be a problem at all. I think this, the second section plus the seaming and the bit of the border took me just over 2 weeks. Whereas the first section, just the first section, took me like 5 months. So we really upped the pace. And so I don't think I'm gonna have any trouble getting it done before Christmas, which is really nice. This is knit in Knit Picks Mighty Stitch, which is a acrylic superwash wool blend. I think it's 80% acrylic, 20% superwash merino. And it's in the colors. I realized I've never shared all of the colors, so I pulled them out so I could show you. But we've got 10 colors. So we've got Mulberry, Fairy Tale, I think this is Serrano, Satsuma, Canary, Alfalfa, and I gotta tell you, Alfalfa, as far as how it combines with the other colors in this blanket, is my favorite. This color looks so good in this blanket. Alfalfa, we've got Marina, Gulfstream, Navy, and for the, oh, I missed one, Mint. sorry, mint goes between Marina and Alfalfa in the gradient like that. And then for the border, it's just plain black. So 11 colors, which is crazy. And on the second section, I did finish my first skeins of the Mulberry, Fairy Tale, Serrano, Satsuma, and Canary. So I've got 5 of the skeins completed, and we're on to the second skeins for them. So, oh, sorry, I have a hair stuck to my lips. Okay, there we go. So yeah, a lot of fun. I've been enjoying working on this a ton. The pile of rainbow colors makes me very happy. So yeah, honestly, if you want to knit something like this, I highly recommend it. It is very fun, and like each square is not a massive commitment, so you can just sit down and work on a square watching some TV and then like walk away from the project if you want. It doesn't feel, I don't know. It's nice. It doesn't take up much real estate in my brain, like pattern wise, which I think is why I've been liking it a lot lately, because my life's just been a little bit crazy, and so it's been nice having a knitting project that just feels very simple and straightforward and fun. And yeah, it's been really good. So that's been my main thing I've been working on. 52 squares out of 100 are done, as well as 1 out of 4 border sides. Also nice. Oh, this is funny. So I've never 100% understood the hate for dark yarn. I know people say it's harder to see what you're doing, it's hard to see your stitches, you need better lighting. And it's one of those things where it's like, I think I'd been knitting for so long before I heard anyone say that I didn't know it was supposed to be hard, so I didn't think about it as being hard. Like, I knew it was harder to see my work, but I don't know, it was weird. It was like, I didn't think about it enough to have an opinion on it, and so I've just never really shied away from dark yarn, because it tends to be in colors I really like, and I like working with it, and so I was just like, yeah, I'll figure it out. Working with this black yarn and this border, I get it. I get why people don't like dark yarn, especially, let's see what square it was. I think it's on this side. Oh, so yeah, on this side, I had to pick up from the navy yarn with the black yarn, and like I could not see what I was doing at all. I was like, okay, I get it, this is very difficult. And I honestly, at the end of that, I ended up missing a stitch, and like there is something funky going on in that corner of the blanket, but it's not enough to make me want to redo it, or that I think anybody else will notice. And I think I just like accidentally skipped one section where I should have picked it up, and it all worked out. The tension seems fine, but in the middle of doing it, I was like, here it is, I get it, I see the issue. So that's my only hiccup I've had on this entire project though, so I think that's pretty good. But yeah, that is my whole update on it. I don't have a lot of extra to say about it, but yeah, I'm excited to see how it keeps coming together. If I keep up at this pace, I'm gonna have a whole nother section done next time I see you guys. I'm not promising that. I mean, I don't know if that will happen, but we'll see, because like I said, I couldn't not make myself work on it today. It was just all I wanted. And I'm probably gonna do another square today. At least one more. So yeah. All right, so that's all I have for my current whips. I do have an acquisition and a project plan to share with you though, so I will get into that. So, hold on, excuse me. I got some very exciting news a couple of months ago that I'm expecting a new niece later this year. So my brother and his wife are having a little girl, and I think you guys have learned by now I really enjoy knitting blankets, and I really like knitting baby blankets because they are a very manageable size. So I was watching Denim and Rain recently. She has it's a knitting podcast also on YouTube. I really like her channel. If you like mine, check hers out, because honestly I think she's doing a better job than me. She's been doing this longer. She has an amazing podcast, so I highly recommend her. But she was also knitting a baby blanket for her sister or sister-in-law, I can't remember, and she knit hers out of Drops Paris, and it was really pretty. She did this just very simple white blanket, but with this really pretty rainbow of colors in the middle, and I absolutely loved it. and I liked the color she was working with, and she said she really liked the Drops Paris. And I've never worked with Drops yarn at all, but Drops Paris is a 100% cotton yarn. It is fairly chunky. I got mine in the color, I believe it was Dandelion. Let's see, does it say? What color are you? It says color 14. So I don't know. I remembered it being called Dandelion, but I could absolutely be making that up. I will put it in the description below. I'll look it up and see what it was called. But I had to order this off at Etsy. That was where I found the best price and the best shipping for it. And it's this absolutely lovely yellow color. I think it's so cute. Excuse me. And I thought it would just make such a fun and bright and happy baby blanket. And so I was looking around at some patterns. I have lots of baby blanket patterns saved on Ravelry at any given time. And I loved all of them. And I was really torn between a few, and I couldn't decide. And in the end, I actually decided that I really didn't want to make any of the ones that I had saved. Like, none of them were really what I was picturing in this yarn for some reason. And so I'm kind of decided to wing it. I have a swatch here that kind of shows what I'm thinking of doing, but it doesn't really show it perfectly. I definitely made a few mistakes while coming up with the swatch. I'm trying to get the needles more organized on it. And I'm not planning to go back and like fix the mistakes I made for the swatch. I'm probably just gonna cast on the blanket at this point, but it does give you an idea. So my plan is to do the main body of the blanket in this really cute little honeycomb stitch, which is all just knits and slip stitches, but it makes this really pretty effect, I think. And it's just a nice texture. It feels nice in the cotton. And then my plan is to pick up stitches all the way around it and knit a border that way. So the idea is that the border will be very similar to how I did the Lovey blanket that I made for my nephew earlier this year. I will link to the podcast episode where I talk about that one up top in case you want to go see what I did for that blanket. It's also a very lovely blanket pattern. But the idea being you have a big square, you pick up stitches, and then you just increase out from there to make a bit of a border. So with that, my idea was to do, drop my yarn, maybe about an inch of stockinette. I was thinking about doing the increases, find a good corner where it actually is noticeable. But I was thinking about doing the increases with eyelets. I think that would be really cute. So I don't like doing like lace baby blankets because I feel like it's too easy for the babies to get their fingers caught in them. But I did just think like the little rows of double eyelets in the corner would be really, really pretty and wouldn't be too, much for the baby. It wouldn't be too grabby necessarily. And I can give it a try, and if I don't like it, I can always, rip back and do some lifted increases. I don't think they would both look fine. And then I don't have it on the swatch because I got tired of working on the swatch. But then after about, 3/4 to an inch of the stockinette, then I was thinking I would do a couple inches of seed stitch to keep the edge from curling and then bind off from there. So that is the plan. When I was doing the swatch, it was incredibly hard to figure out where to pick up stitches along the sides of the honeycomb section. So when I knit the blanket, my plan is to add a 2-stitch selvage to either side where I have the nice slip stitches on the edge, make it really easy to pick them up from there. I'll probably have to do a little bit of work to figure out my pickup rate because on one of the sides on my swatch, I picked up way too many stitches and it's all ruffly and you can already tell. So I want to make sure I avoid that on the actual blanket, but it'll just take a little bit of, figuring out. I'll look at whatever my stockinette gauge is here and then, compare it to my row gauge for the honeycomb section and just do a little bit of math. So I'm not too worried about that. Once I have the slip stitch edges, I think it'll be really easy to do. So it'll be fine. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. I think it's gonna be super cute. It feels a little weird going off, not going off a pattern. That is not my typical move. I typically will use a pattern no matter how simple the project I have in mind is. I just don't always trust my like knitter's intuition, which I'm not sure why. I've been knitting a long time. I feel like I should be more trusting of myself at this point, but we're just gonna go for it for this one. And I think I'm very hopeful. I think it'll be really cute. So one thing, because I've talked about it before, I care about how the backs of blankets look. Like I want to make sure they look not, you know, like the same as the front or something, but I want to make sure the back looks tidy and not like messy or like obviously the wrong side. And I will say I like the way the back of the honeycomb stitch looks. It's just sort of a slightly extra dense reverse stockinette, which is nice. And also when I do it for the real blanket, I'm gonna try and use a provisional cast on so that the top and the bottom both won't have a seam. When I go around, you'll just have a slight seam on the sides and the back, which I think will look nice and neat. So yeah, that's my plan. Since I honestly kind of have no, you know, I'm kind of winging on this, I would appreciate if anyone has any insight or tips or anything to, you know, really maximize this blanket and make it the best it can be. I am happy to hear them. But yeah, that is the plan so far, and I'm very excited about it. So that is actually all that I have for you guys today. Nice quick episode, just because I spent my entire time working on that one blanket. So I don't have a ton to talk about, unfortunately. But I do have one thing I would like your guys' opinion on. So please, if you could stick around, and I'm going to be asking for some advice in the comments, and I would really, really appreciate as much input as possible. So in 2 weeks, it would usually be my next podcast update. However, I am planning to be camping with my family that weekend, and I don't think I'm going to be able to find any time to film within that, you know, at all during that weekend. It's just not going to happen. And I don't want to wait another 3 weeks to give you guys a video. So my plan is to do a video next week, but I'm not going to have enough knitting updates at that point to do another podcast episode. So next week, I thought I would do a fun little bonus episode that's not one of my podcast episodes, and I just would like your guys' opinion on what you would most like to see. So I have some ideas. I did just go through, I know I'm not deciding to actually knit any of them, but I did just do a whole roundup for myself of baby blanket patterns. So I could do a video about that roundup and give you guys a whole list of blanket patterns that I've seen recently that I really love, that I think would be great options. I could also, I've been thinking about this lately, do an episode about my personal favorite knitting YouTube channels, because I watch a lot of them, and I know I'm always really excited when people give me new knitting podcasts to watch, so I'd be happy to do an episode about that. Or 3, someone recently asked me if I could talk more about the books that I have as my background around me, because I always film in my little reading corner. And so I'd also be open to doing maybe a little knit and chat where I go through some of the books on my bookshelf, you know, what genres I like, what my favorite books are, things like that. So please let me know what you would like to, yeah, let me know what you guys are interested in, and that'll be really helpful because I could do any of these. I think they're super fun. Or if you have a, you know, completely unrelated idea, send that to me as well. I'm always looking for ideas. And so, and to be honest, if you guys pick one episode and, you know, the others don't get made, that they'll get made later. I will probably make all of these episodes eventually, but this is up to whatever, you know, people are most looking forward to right this moment. So I would seriously, seriously appreciate that. So that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Happy knitting. Bye.